Hello, you are all very welcome indeed to the closing of this year's Regions Week, indeed the 21st week of Regions and Cities. I'm Jennifer Baker, I'll be your MC, guiding you through today's agenda, and joining me is Monica Hershey, Director in DG Regio at the European Commission.
Very warm welcome from me as well on behalf of the European Commission.
First, some housekeeping. We have got interpretation, so you can find that on the headsets. We will be providing interpretation simultaneously in English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, and Polish. Simply open your headsets and select the dial to find the right number. You can see it there on the screen behind me. We're also going to be using the Slido tool to take the temperature of everyone joining here in the square, and of course to those of you joining us online from the regions of Europe and perhaps around the world as well. To do that, you can go to slido.com on your smartphone or your tablet or your device and put in the hashtag EURegionsWeek, or you can get out your phones, as many of you are doing, and scan the QR code on the screen. We'll be doing this. We want this to be interactive, so we will get your feedback. I think, Monica, after a few days already of discussions and debates and speeches and questions and lots of answers, we can all agree that regions and cities are key to the engagement of a vibrant Europe. As the slogan for this year's meeting says, thriving regions, stronger Europe. High-quality projects and actions in the regions will ensure recovery and development, a resilient, green, digital transition. And of course, it's not just the transition that's important, it's where those transitions take us, right the way to a really vibrant Europe of the future. And it's worth remembering as well that the cohesion policy is the biggest public investment policy with long-term view and direct impact on people's lives. That's what we've got to talk about over the next afternoon. Monica, anything else to look forward to?
Well, actually, Jennifer, yes. I think this week was very much about action on the ground. How do we implement the policy? How we implement it better? How we ensure that we see success from those investments throughout the European Union. But it also gave us an opportunity to look a little bit into the future. How do we shape our future policy in view of emerging challenges? And so I do want to invite you not only conclude today this discussion, but to continue that discussion. We are organizing a number of debates throughout the EU with many member states in many regions. Please join them. Please organize such debates in your regions, in your communities, to help us shape the European cohesion policy of the future together. And the very important meeting point for that will be next year, Cohesion Forum. It's our flagship event, and I hope to see many of you there.
Thank you, Monica. Well, before we get there, we have this afternoon's session, and we have 6 themes over the whole Regions Week. These we have paired up into 3 blocks for this afternoon, so we will have 3 thematic blocks. And fitting very nicely, we have 3 great hosts. We have our 3 institutions present. So I'd like a warm round of applause to our hosts, the European Commissioner for Cohesion and Reforms, Elisa Ferreira, President of the European Committee of the Regions, Vasco Alves Cardino, and Chair of the European Parliament's Regi Committee, Jonas Omarjee. Please thank them for all their hard work. And now, Monica, please tell us about the first block.
So the first block is about post-industrial transition, and it is also about local energy shift towards a more sustainable and secure energy. So what is post-industrial transition? Where we are shifting and we are moving from traditional manufacturing sectors, from mining towards new services, new industry, modernization. But how we do it is equally important. In fact, one of the speakers said this is not something new. We have started industrial transition when we invented the wheel, and since that point we have been transitioning. But what is different today are the challenges and the urgency. The challenges, I think we all know them, we heard them throughout the debates, the post-pandemic, the need to recover, the climate change and the natural disasters we have seen, the rising prices, energy, inflation. But the urgency is also because we cannot permit that this transition undermines cohesion and that it deepens the divide between more richer and less developed regions. So Challenges are there, urgency are there, how do we do it? Well, I think many of these regions actually have a lot of assets. They are the past economic powerhouses of the EU. If you go visit these regions, you can see that they do have know-how. They do have technology, even if it's linked to past sectors. They have trained workers, and most importantly, they have pride. Have you talked to miners? Have you talked to workers? They are very proud in their community. But they also have common challenges, and these are low productivity outside these traditional sectors, the need to reorient their skills towards the new economy, and to ensure that the benefits of any transition are shared by all. And this is where cohesion policy has an important role to play. And I just want to mention 3 aspects of how cohesion policy can do that. First of all, cohesion policy can help to revive the industry. It can help with research, innovation, modernization. Second, cohesion policy to help do that in a more cleaner, energy efficient way. We also had a debate of clean energy, and it was very interesting to see how today we have technological solutions that can allow us to move from more centralized to decentralized energy provision, close to the community, clean energy, ownership, and something that can involve all of us to ensure our own energy ownership, consumption, security, and provision. So we have this second pillar, but the third and probably the most important is that cohesion policy can help to leave no one behind and no place behind, because a transition must be just, and the benefits of any such transition needs to be shared by all. So let's have a look.
There are hundreds of individual stories of places which are using European cohesion support to drive exciting new investments in the green and digital transition. You bring these stories, each of you, and we can learn from each other. We have got to create networks.
We need to work together at all levels of government to achieve real impact. Regions and cities are fundamental players for both climate adaptation and mitigation.
All our world believes that the only goal is to produce energies in a centralized way when it is completely wrong. It is to save energy at absolutely every level and to produce energy at every level.
The energy sharing model is really a game changer for the energy transition.
Citizens, they have the right to become active.
When we talk the challenges that we have in the industrial transition, 2 things come up for me from the regional perspective: the synergy in policies and synergy in funding.
Science is one of the ingredients in this transition process.
AI will affect all democracies in Europe, and the local and regional level is the most trusted by the citizen. That's why they have to play a key role in the implementation of the AI Act.
There's so much energy around us right now. We need to take more ownership and control over it.
Well, I think that has set the scene. For our first block discussion. So I would like to invite our speakers on stage to lead this session. We have indeed Commissioner Elisa Ferreira. We also have Eliane Demolin-Schneiders, the Regional Minister of the Province of Limburg. Konstantinos Philippides is President of the Association of Active Youths of Florina and the Rapporteur of Theme 1. Thank you. Cristina Suchala is from Planeta Petrilia and Rapporteur from Theme 5. Well, thank you all very much. I know we're leading off the discussion of these three blocks, so we have a challenge to really get people involved. But that is going to fall, Konstantinos, first to you to report back from us from your thematic session, which was on regions in post-industrial transition. Tell us about that, and also weave in a little bit of the story of your own projects and experience.
Thank you so much, first of all, for this invitation. I'm really happy that I participated in a very, very interesting panel with people that know where they go, know where they come from, and how they will lead the innovation, development to the future that we need. And of course, people that believe also in the European unity, in the dream of the Europeans that we need for the future. As you said before, industrial transition is not something new. As Mrs. Michalun from OECD explained during the session, it's something that it started with the invention of the wheel, and it keeps going, because today it's becoming more complex to address and more urgent. And we know all that there is an urgency to make changes into our life, especially in regions that are right now in an industrial transition and generally former economic powerhouses. Today, they may face, as we know all, lower income, insufficient growth, and of course, higher unemployment. They may also face social pressures as brain drain, as it happens also in my region, and of course, lower well-being. If transition is not news, so why it is then complex and urgent? It's complex because of the uncertain environment, as we know, COVID-19, climate change, the aggression of Russia in Ukraine, inflation, and other kind of crises like today that we have. It is certain because the growing territorial inequalities and declining trust in governments also, especially in regions with long-term economic decline, residents that feel that they are not part of the dialogue, they are not part of this development, and of course the regions are going behind. To top it up, the lack of trust in government's impact, democratic outcomes, and makes transition even more complex. Our speaker, Mr. Mikulic, State Secretary of the Ministry of Regional Development of Croatia, Mrs. Demolin-Snijders from Minister of the Region Limburg, the Netherlands, Mr. Ripi, Lapland Governor, and me, as founder and president of Association of Active Use of Florina from the region of Western Macedonia, Greece, and of course, Mrs. Michalun from the OECD. We all aspire that our economies flourish and former industrial sites are put back to life. Croatia has chosen the smart specialization path, as it say, put money in those areas where we can go faster. Lapland's approach is to put funding into innovation and research, including in mining, and to build collaboration for sustainable value chains. Limburg, on the other side, in particular, transitioned from coal mining regions 50 years ago to a region with a knowledge-based industry, in particular in the bio-based and circular chemical industry. At the end, my city, Florina, in Western Macedonia, a region depending entirely on the infrastructure and the power plant economy, is the first Greek city that we would like to do, that we would like to transform it, to transit it into a city that will 100% depend on the renewable energy future. This transition all depends on political will, for sure, strong governance structures, and above all, social inclusiveness. Because people matter, and many policymakers must first listen with empathy to their people's needs before they decide what is best for those people, we need to give first space for thoughts and dreams. This is what people from Western Macedonia say. Because, for example, in Limburg, we learned that hard lesson during its 50 years transition. Back in the 70s, it was the policy that focused on the miners, disregarding the impacts on families and the well-being in the region. This is understandable as at the time there were very few women involved in policy formulation or implementation. This led to less attention to health, education, overall well-being of the families affected. Today, it's crucial to involve the broader household, gender mainstream, and the community as whole. Limburg's aim is an all-inclusive policy where everybody can participate, because it puts people are committed if they own their results. But how to involve people? This is a very, very important question. As Western Macedonia experienced it, not all people are convinced by environmental policies. For example, we have not persuaded yet the citizens. How do you change the mindset that fast? Limburg's experience shows that people need to see the global picture. And Lapland believes that nothing is more convincing than seeing the results, whether at home or somewhere else. People need to know, and we need to know what is there for them. Communication is the key aspect. And to this point, I would like also to express what happened during the presence of Commissioner Ferreira 2 years ago in Western Macedonia, where this presence from a strong European official was the beginning to get and to engage young people into this dialogue. And I would like personally to thank you for this, because you did a great, great job on that. Yet, and of course we would like to welcome you again when we'll have the opening of the youth center in Greece. Yet, the most difficult to attract not every business, but the right business in the region is also a question. The one that will be sustainable and will stay once public support funds drain, based on Limburg's past experience. What is important is to show that there is a potential business case by improving the broader business environment, upskilling the workers, improving the logistics infrastructure, so as not only to attract business, but also to keep the business on track. And Lapland will say yes, but where are the results and good examples? How do we make people, business, research, and government equitable partners? Both Limburg and Lapland have a lot to share from their experience. But having the right partner is not enough. In addition, there must be the right policy, the right strategy, the right governance structure, and above all, the right implementation. And that is challenging as well. One of our speakers was very frank. If I might be honest about implementing different policies at the EU level and the national levels and the regional level, where everything is implemented, it is a mess. Croatia, on the other hand, is trying to bridge all these complexities at the national level to accelerate the transition, but it's not easy. There seems to be mismatch between policies and funding possibilities, which hampers further implementation. And the key here is implementation. As one speaker put it, if you have a policy and you do not use it, you should not have put money into making the policy. So, are there solutions? Those come loudly and clearly from the panel. Listen with empathy. Simplify to make clearer and more consistent the rules from the EU down to the regions. Align funding to policies. Allow for experimental governance, which gives you the opportunity to test something in real time and know how to adjust. And keep on collaborating. In all of it, do not forget to commit the people, because the risk to failure is spread as everyone is assuming something it in the ownership. If I may summarize the reason in a couple of words, those words will be people, policy, governance, and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Konstantinos. That was quite a lot for you to distill into the time left. Christina, the same task for you. You're going to be telling us about Theme 5, Local Energy Shift for Security and Sustainability.
Yes, thank you. It was a very, very good session, and it was very inspiring. I think we all had a lot to learn from each initiative. They were all at different scale, and they were quite good. So the session started with a Slido poll, and the question asked was, which was, in their view, the biggest challenge to achieve local energy shifts? So most participants highlighted that it is the regulatory challenges that persist. Then we had the very inspiring intervention of Bertrand Piccard, and he insisted on the fact that a lot of energy that is produced is lost. Actually, almost 3/4 of the energy that we produce is wasted. And in this respect, we need to be much more efficient and ask ourselves, where is the more efficient way to produce energy, and how can we save it? With a sharp drop in the cost of decentralized renewable energy sources like solar or wind or small hydro, the centralization versus localization of our energy system is now the real question. He underscored that today is more efficient to delocalize through renewable. A key success factor is to understand what delocalization is. That is profitable, and for the ones who oppose it, to change regulations and incentives so they are encouraged to use it. And this is a complex revolution that faces a lot of resistance, but all actors need to be pushed in these directions. Hence, he called for more courage and more ambition, pointing at the fact that centralization is the lazy solution. He mentioned that wasting heat and energy should be prohibited, and this would pull existing solutions into the market. Then we had the intervention of Waltraud Schmid from Vienna, and she provided insights on the energy shift in Vienna based on their long-term goal to get to a climate-neutral city by 2040. Including phase out on natural gas for space heating by then. She insisted on the need for a strong public infrastructure, as well as for a social justice project and an inclusive approach. As a key element, solutions need to be tailor-made, taking into account the density of the territories in terms of inhabitants, but also services like transport offer. As a concrete case, she explained that the city of Vienna owns almost 220,000 apartments, and since not all are connected to the district heating, for the other ones, following proper insulation, the energy supply were switched to heat pumps and renewable energy. Concretely, in order to reach the 2040 target, about 450,000 individual boilers will have to be changed in Vienna, meaning something like 100 per day. Mrs. Schmidt also welcomed the EU policy direction and support through cohesion policy. Then I presented the case of Planeta Petrila, and this is a transition project, transition process that started 12 years ago. At the origin, it was an architectural-based industrial heritage project. In a way, it shows us how industrial heritage can be a soft power who helps us build cohesion and get us to energy transition. In the past 12 years, we managed to transform this initiative in involving the community and including the former miners. And with the help of the cohesion policy from the European Union, we managed to create a new structure that's called the Association for the Integrated territorial development of the Jiu Valley, who includes 4 NGOs, all the city administrations, 6 by numbers, and the county council. And they are implementing in the future a first intervention with solar panels that will provide energy for the public use in Petrila. And this was with the help of the EU and the cohesion policy and the World Bank, who played an important role in the development of this initiative. Then Helene Schockert gave further information about ReScoop that represents almost 1,000 renewable energy communities across Europe. And energy communities are not just about citizens taking ownership of the energy system, but going with the citizens so they can have a role to play in the future and impact in our daily lives. The energy crisis has made such developments even more necessary. Municipalities and local administrations are usually good allies for energy communities. She underlined that there are still many legal barriers on renewable energy communities, with a legal enabling framework lagging in many member states. The energy community movement would also need to work and include more vulnerable people and groups. Mrs. Schockert called for more recognition of energy communities in their specificities.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That was very succinct, and well done to you for that. Round of applause, please, Christina. I'm going to ask our other guests to comment in a moment, but allow you to gather your thoughts. We're going to go to Slido first to ask everyone in general. So get out your smartphones again, go to that Slido page that we warned you about, scan the hashtag there, or go to EURegionsWeek. The first question, we're asking you to sum up in one word, if you can, the lessons learned this week on the sessions on regions in post-industrial transition. That was the feedback you just heard there from Konstantinos. Put in a word that you think might make that sense. So we've got cooperation. In presence is better, so I suppose fewer Zoom meetings. Pride, courage, a roadmap, cooperation, cohesion, cooperation again. I see people and government in there as well as courage and decentralization, communication, but we're seeing it all center around those 3 big C's: communication, cooperation, cohesion, and co-creation I'm seeing as well. I'm seeing more and more people voting. If we can get it up, over 40 people voted now. We'll see, we'll cut it off. We're over 50 people, and it's still those top 3 words. So I think that's sending a clear message that lots of things are useful, like the new European Bauhaus, like the action plan, and like innovation. We'll move on to the next thematic session, but we'll try and store that and hopefully be able to use it later. Yeah, people still voting. So, one word now to sum up the lessons learned from the sessions on local energy shift for security and sustainability. The same again, if you've been attending sessions this week on that, you'll know what we're talking about. Future leadership equality. It makes a sentence, which is very nice. Again, we're seeing cooperation come out, the main thing again. People, people, people. Synergies, local community, the Green Deal, hydrogen, it's very specific. Again, the new European Bauhaus, communication. Sun, which I presume means solar power there, not just going on holiday. Save hydrogen, cooperation, community, communication. I'm seeing a really strong trend here in going for these 3 C's. But security is also one that's worth looking at, as is flexibility and as is innovation. So that's a lot of thoughts and a lot of words, Commissioner. I'm going to ask you to reflect a little bit on some of those words that everyone here in the room and those at home are sending us, but also on what you've heard from our 2 rapporteurs.
Yes, is it working? Yes, it is. Well, let me just take this opportunity just to give a little bit of explanation of why we have such a different, I think, closing session. Usually the closing session of a meeting is full of very formal speeches. In this case, we wanted to innovate and also to give more content to what are the lessons learned during this week. And this is the reason why we decided to do things from a different perspective, which is a bit, out of the box.
And here we have in these panels, first of all, we have selected 6 topics, difficult topics. Because one thing is to say that we want rebalanced growth, that we want to go through transition, that we want to stimulate growth in the most deprived regions. The other thing is how to do it. So one of the dangers is that we do nice words, we negotiate money, but then how to do it? And so this is what we wanted to address in this closing session, not by, again, putting theories on the topics, but rather inviting people who have done it. And one of the issues that are permanently, quoted and named in relation to cohesion policy is in fact this, how to organize this multi-level approach. And all of you mentioned it. How can we combine in a coherent way what we do at the European level, what you do at national level, what you do at regional level? How to involve and how to make a coherent thing. And so this is the reason why in each of these panels, and each of them touches upon things difficult to operationalize in practice, but on which we are trying to combine some overall vision from European entities, some vision from the high political level, and thank you very much, Minister Eliane de Molinen, to be here, and then at the local level. How can we really get the local people involved? And I think this is what we take from these examples, because we say that, and today we quoted it and we heard it, that in fact, if we are talking about place-based approaches, each region is different from the other. There are no regions that are the same. Nevertheless, there are some methodologies that can be an inspiration from one to the other. So that's the reason why we had all these panels. Now we are asking you to bring to us and to share with all the other colleagues that are in the room and web streamed and following us exactly what are the lessons learned. And I would underline here, on one hand, the need to have a coherence, also the need for technologies, for a vision, how we want to do things, how we have got to do things, and then to have this local engagement. And in fact, you were kind enough to, Konstantinos, to thank me for going there, but I just think, and in Planeta Petrila I also visited, and we had great fun with all of you, and in fact visiting mines, and I was shown around, the mines, in fact by the miners, by previous miners that became touristic agents, and they were really absolutely amazing in showing how the mines worked, what the tragedies that happened in the mines. And so now it's a touristic point in the middle of a very frightening kind of environment. And also with you, Konstantinos, we benefited from this energy, because we need young people. We need young people to move forward. And in certain countries, everything is very organized. In certain countries and in certain regions, it is not. And so we really have to create these ways to address things. And without your energy, without partnership, without you being engaged and discussing with the local people how we can do it, but at the same time having the recognition at the high level of that in fact there is the potential there, and that in fact together maybe we can overcome all the barriers that are in our way. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you for being here. More than being here, thank you for being available to share, and thank you for what you actually are doing in all the situations in which you are really working. So thank you once again, and thank you, Minister, for being here with us. Thank you.
Well, Minister, I'm sure you agree with much of what the Commissioner has said, but give us your unique perspective, because I know you're into these topics.
Thank you, Eliza. Yes, we have quite some challenges. And it was also what I talked to in this session where I forgot your Konstantinos also was involved. Sorry. We have quite some challenges, and yet also on the other hand, we know we don't have the time that we had 50 years ago. So we have to move on. And it was I tried to weaken up during the session, said we made mistakes 50 years ago in our region, and contact us to say what were your mistakes, so that you say, okay, we can learn and we can move on. On the other hand, there were also things that went well, but by looking back and see really what could we have done otherwise, or what could we have done better, we hope to share the lessons learned with other regions that can benefit from those lessons. And in the end, I think if you look to cohesion policy, cohesion is all about connecting. Cohesion means tissue. So social tissue, economic tissue, it means that you have to connect with the needs from the people. And then from that point onwards, you can start to build a new tissue, because you need that social tissues, that economic tissues, and then have a new cohesion. Because if you have an industrial transition, energy transition, or every change also changes in your life, a new reality comes up. But you have to go through that. And it's very important to take all people on board. And that is something, one of the harsh lessons that we had in Limburg, is that we say we left some people behind. And then in a situation, you have poverty comes along, and you have a situation, and you say, if we had known that, then we had made some other choices when we were there 40, 50 years ago. So that is something that's important. If you say no one should stay behind, I agree with that. And I think that if you listen empathically and you connect, your communication then is connecting, I think maybe it takes a little bit longer, but in the end, you can take everyone with you.
Christina and yes, Tina. She's right. Christina and Konstantinos, I just want to ask you a little bit, because you feel, I'm sure, very supported here this week at Regions Week. Do you get the sense that regions and communities feel that closeness to the EU throughout the years and throughout time? And what would you like to see? What more do you want in terms of feeling close to the EU and support? Christina, you can go first.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind right now is that we feel seen, and that is important, because our initiative at the beginning was, let's say, under-regarded by the local administration, but that was like 12 years ago. Things have changed, and sometimes it helped being seen by the EU in order to be seen locally or at the government level, and to be able to have a seat at the table and discuss about our policy. So I think that's important, and it's very useful, besides also the funding in creating the associations and all the know-how. And yes, the challenges that we are facing, and I think it's typical for former mining areas, is the lack of know-how, the small administrations. They have small capacities, and basically they have to reinvent almost everything, and we are there to help them today. We are working together, but communication can help, and I think more help in developing a know-how in order to create this governance and in the energy transition and in the post-mining transition too. I don't know if I completely answered.
No, but you gave some good insight, I think, because I want Konstantinos to join in as well. Christina said that it helps to feel seen. Do you think there's something more that we can do to help regions feel empowered to take these steps?
First of all, to be here, it means that we are in Europe, for sure. So, secondly, to represent a region that is right now one of the first regions in transition after the Green Deal, it's also a huge opportunity to represent people from our region. So it's obvious that something is happening, something that 10 years ago nobody expected, let's say. And the old-fashioned policies that existed regarding what the European Union is doing and how good are the national policies and how good are the national politicians, this right now, let's say, it's undercovers this lie, for sure. So right now, the thing that we have to do is to have more Europe in the regions, more Europe with the civil society organization, with associations like our organization, and of course, to support what's the problem in our region. There is a lack of dialogue and engagement of people in this kind of dialogue. And I think that good examples through this also event and through other events, dialogue events, should be done more and more in our regions and in our cities. So this is what we need more, because I think that the funds and everything are in the right place, but they need to be, how to say, would be given to the right people, to the right policies.
Minister, obviously the EU has some of these funding instruments in place, but if we really want to strengthen cohesion, the EU and the EU institutions cannot do it alone. There needs to be buy-in at all levels of government. How can we do that? What's your thoughts on that?
I think maybe have a small example. I come from a very small village where I was raised and also live now with 550 people, very close to Maastricht. When I go home, I have to explain those people what I have done today here. They need to understand. So what I try to do is to connect with the people in the language they know. So I think that the challenge is that Europe needs to be actually more being seen on that level. And of course, the village where I live is a small village, but also in cities, the visibility can be enlarged by using the words that people recognize and that people understand. So the recognition of what Europe does for them as citizens, that's very important. I'm proud to be a European citizen. I feel real Europe. As I see what Europe did also after the Second World War, I feel obliged to put my work there and really empower people, empower democracy. But the fact is the connecting and talk to people in a way that they can recognize and they can understand, and also what they can do. And if you have that connection that everybody knows, okay, this is my part of this whole thing, then they feel connected and they feel, oh, I am owner of that larger part. And then you can create that ownership, and after that, the proud. And that is something, Konstantinos, what I hear from you, you will recognize. And I always say also in my work, it's very important that people know people hear me, people see me, and it does matter that I exist. And if you, then people can become strong. But if people have the idea, they just talk about me but not with me, it doesn't matter them what my needs are, I think then we will not try to achieve what we write down in the policies. So, and that is what and I know that it's a lot of work, but I think if we really want to exceed, I think we have to really engage with the people, and that's actually cohesion, create that cohesion together.
It is a lot of work, and the two themes, Commissioner, of this block are regions in post-industrial transition and the local energy shift. Both of those things, I think, have in common is change, and change is difficult and can be scary. So I'm going to give the final word for this block to you to kind of give us some enthusiasm on how to tackle this scary change.
Well, thank you very much for putting the question like that, because I was exactly, trying to express something that sometimes here in Brussels or in countries or in speeches we say, okay, we need to do the transition. Yes, we do, but and transition is there. It's not Brussels that is forcing transition. We are kind of putting some elements of compensation so that transition is not so hard.
I know.
But by doing this, we should not disregard the effort and the cost of transition. I was once, when I visited a lot of places already across Europe, and usually the places where there are problems, and a miner, he was 50 years old, and he came to me, and I was in Katowice, and he came to me and he said, look, lady, of course this transition is nice, but tell me, when my mine closes, and I've been a miner all my life, and my wife doesn't work because I was in the mine during the day, and now I'm 50 years old, what do you expect me to do for my life? So it's not a simple thing. I mean, we cannot just say, okay, let's move forward. So it's full of details. It's full of challenges, and it's frightening. And when I visited Western Macedonia, or when I visited the Jui Valley, you look at these big power plants that are naturally closing, and you see, okay, how would I address this if I was here? So this is really a challenge. Now, of course, it's manageable. Of course, if we are all together, if we help each other, we'll do it. But the other thing is, okay, we say retrain, reskill, we are creating the instruments, but you have got to be able to, as the Minister was saying, to capture the activities on which you can employ people. And this is something that also takes time, takes engagement. The third aspect I would like to analyze or to put into the discussion is you need a technical vision and a technical means of the way to do it. And this is probably one of the lessons to be learned. Once the political will is there, okay, you have got to accept that there is a change. And the political will is there to do it in the softest manner, without leaving anybody behind, as the Minister was referring to. So how to do it? How to do it in terms of the choice of the technology, the choice of the entities that are going to locate there, but also how to organize the system in terms of governance and engagement in order to be able to have the final positive result. Having said this, so managing the change, you mentioned the empowerment of people and institutions. And also we are trying through DG Reform and the TSI, and this is also how the World Bank and the OECD are helping, also to create the know-how, the technical capacity to organize the system for the change. Because it is true, and this morning, someone that Christina knows, that is Mr. Emil Bock, he was speaking and he was saying something that I heard him saying more than once. He was saying, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. So I think this is Europe in construction, as the Minister was saying. Everybody can give a hand, because Europe is not done. Europe is this kind of project that we build it by walking. We make the road by walking on it. But we have got to do it with a sense of unity, a sense of cohesion, because certain issues we can only solve them if we are together. And this togetherness is what I think we should also to keep and to fight for it, because I mean, the prosperity of certain areas today, as those mining areas that were so prosperous in the past, may be a problematic area tomorrow. And this is, so we need each other. We need to learn from each other, but also to discuss the details of the methodology, of the engagement, and to make institutions and people feel responsible, be seen, so that you participate, but you also engage in solutions. So I'll finish here, thank you.
Thank you very much, and indeed, thank you to all our speakers. Thank you all so much, and I think we can see a graphic representation as you're leaving the stage of what was discussed in this first block. It's, there we go, we've had someone working very hard behind the scenes to draw this up for us. Well, Monica, that was, I think, a very interesting session. We're going on to block 2. Tell us about the 2 themes for that. What have we got coming up next?
So block 2 is about talent and developing talent for European regions, and it's also about promoting social innovation. And Europe's got talent. It's enough to look at the recent Nobel Prizes and see how many Europeans have won it. I'm very proud as a Hungarian that both medicine and physics went to my countrywomen and countrymen. I'm coming from a small country, and nevertheless, we have good scientists. But also the discussions during the week clearly showed all the talent and knowledge that is present here among our stakeholders. But talent needs to be nurtured. We do see that 1/3 of European population lives in regions that see a double challenge. They see a shrinking labor force and at the same time a low share of people with higher education, and young people are leaving. And this, what we call a talent development trap, unfortunately can lead to more rural-urban divide, to widening differences between regions. This is why the European Commission has issued a new strategy on harnessing talents for regions, to revive regions with the help of cohesion policy and to attract, retain, develop talent. And social innovation, the other main topic, has a major role to play because it allows us to experience and to do this in a very inclusive way. So let's have a look.
Transforming our societies, making them greener, reinforcing our digital connectivity, making them more inclusive, supporting the development of new skills. This will contribute to progress only if we leave no territory behind.
The basic principle of social innovation is finding together new ways of generating positive change.
Social innovation takes time. The hardest challenge is to identify the best practice and to build from there.
We are going to discuss the dilemma that many of us already experience about our own place of origin. Should I stay or should I go?
There are lots of regions in Europe that not only are a bit stagnant in their development, but at the same time, what could make them grow is missing. And this is the energy of young, qualified people.
Last year, only 46,000 people left the country. And the result of that is that our population is older and older.
The purpose is, in fact, to rebalance growth.
Instead of millions of people looking for jobs, we have millions of jobs looking for people. Skills are vital for prosperity, for innovation, for jobs, and for European competitiveness.
What you can do is to turn brain drain to brain gain.
We need to deconstruct the storytelling that links the rural areas with a lack of technology, with a lower cultural level, or with economic poverty.
Well, indeed, I hope that has whetted your appetite, because once again, we're going to invite up one of our hosts from the European Committee of the Regions, President Vasco Alves Cardino, to head up this session. We also have joining us Alexander Jevšek, the Slovenian Minister for Development and European Cohesion Policy. Virginia Marco Carcel is the Director of EU Affairs at Castilla de la Mancha and Rapporteur from Theme 2. And last but not least, Austin Campbell is Executive Director of the Robert Emmet Community Development Project and Rapporteur from Theme 6. Thank you all so much. We're going to ask our two rapporteurs first to briefly sum up. I know it's a tough challenge to squeeze into 3 or 4 minutes what was an hour-long conversation. But Virginia, I'm going to ask you to go first, and I do appreciate that you're a little bit hoarse.
Good afternoon. I'm very sorry for my voice. I will try my best. So during our panel, Retaining Talent for Regional Growth, first of all, we all valued so much that now from local and regional levels to the European Commission, we all have understood how important it is to work together to stop the population and giving people the equal rights to access to public services. We were honored to count on Mrs. Dubravka Suica, the Commission's Vice President for Democracy and Demography. She presented the implementation of the Harnessing Talent Communication and its Talent Booster Mechanism. This is a dedicated 8-pillar initiative aiming to boost talent in regions to help train, retain, and attract people, and to develop the skills and competencies needed to address the impact of the demographic transition. She developed on the activities and initiatives during these European years of skills, as well as the skills needed for the green and digital transition. She mentioned the labor shortages reflected by the 74% of the SMEs in Europe. She concluded by informing of the adoption of the demographic toolbox, which was already yesterday, and the talent mobility package the following month, aiming at allowing legal migration of skilled third countries workers to the sectors identified as of strategic relevance at European level. The panel discussion was later launched by Mrs. Anna Lisa Boni. She is the Deputy Mayor of the city of Bologna, and she presented projects aiming to attract and retain national and international talent. This city has developed the Invest in Bologna platform, a one-stop shop dedicated to talent and businesses that want to relocate in the city in the metropolitan area. This platform has a special module dedicated to talent and has been created with cohesion funds. The second panelist was myself. I'm Virginia Marco, Director for EU Affairs in Castilla-La Mancha. And I presented the program in first place of the return of the talent aimed to the young people who had to live abroad, and now they are willing to come back to work in the region. And I also presented the law against the population. This is a pioneer in Europe because it includes tax reliefs to people to live and to enterprises to invest and settle in our region, which is a sparsely populated area. It has resulted so far in these 2 years of implementation in the arrival of 9,000 new inhabitants in our region. Other investments have been in infrastructure, also thanks to the cohesion funds, such as broadband, reopening schools, as well as a STAR initiative, which is the transport on demand. Mr. Thomas Asser, he's the rector of the University of Tartu in Estonia. He presented a concrete example of the Delta Center of the university as an infrastructure and human capital development that was also co-funded by the structural funds. He demonstrated the impact of this investment to attract and retain talent and for the economic development of the region. Concretely, part of the Delta Center is dedicated to business partners. It is rented to the companies wishing to collaborate directly with the university. Also, the university, this is also interesting, is organizing a business festival, lionizing the academia and entrepreneurs. And finally, he pleaded the Commission for more flexible approach towards co-financing projects. Mr. Christian Slette, he's a professor of robotics from the University of Southern Denmark. He explained the projects that link academics specialized in robotics and IA with industry, in energy, infrastructure, housing, that struggle to find workforce. It made a great transformational change in attracting researchers and engineers in the region. Reacting to the intervention, Mrs. Vice President Suica, she highlighted that there is no one-size-fits-all. The European Union is adjusting its policies for different regions that are dealing with different issues. Therefore, tailored intervention addressing the needs of different regions are needed. She underlined 3 key solutions: best use of the cohesion policy, AI and robotics, and legal migration and international recruitment. Then in the part of answering questions and answers from the public, Mrs. Bani underlined that the focus should be to create a good quality of life for the workforce and not only to attract the companies to the regions. Myself, I precised that talent, because of this lack of definition, talent is not only a higher education graduate, but also a skilled farmer is an asset. On the post-industrial transition, Mr. Slette commented that people should be ready for the lifelong learning and continuous re- and upskilling. And finally, Mr. Asser defended creating the governance that goes beyond the business as usual and what will define the future of the region. So in conclusion, as common takeaways, we all the speakers agree that an investment to provide a proper infrastructure, access to school, transport, quality of the public services is needed to attract and retain talent in our regions. Availability of possibilities for continuous education and a good quality of life are key factors for everybody, no matter top researchers, average inhabitants, or Ukrainian refugees. And for this, a political willingness and cooperation is crucial.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you. Austin, your brief summary of our session yesterday and what were the key takeaways?
So I'm summing up the session on promoting social innovation for a more sustainable, inclusive and social Europe. I was lucky enough to be joined in the session by Mr. Yevsek to my right, Ms. Sukova, who is Deputy Director General for Funds, Fair Transition and Analysis with the Commission, and Arkadia Zborowicz, who's Vice President of Science for Environment Foundation Poland. So it was a very good session, and Jennifer chaired it very well. So it began with Mr. Yevsek speaking about the different social innovative approaches being taken in Slovenia. Slovenia is promoting intergenerational cooperation by improving the quality of life of the elderly and by introducing special forms of care for them to live independently and actively, as well as exploring socio-economic innovation opportunities for inclusion of the Roma community. Major challenge after the recent devastating floods in Slovenia is to develop social innovation in working with people after natural disasters. And one point Mr. Yevsek made that I think hit home with the audience in the session is it's not enough just to build new infrastructure. We also need to rebuild hope and trust of people in functioning of a social and solidarity-based Europe. And I think Commissioner Ferreira mentioned just a moment ago about kind of walking the road together. And I think that sort of philosophy is very evident right across this week. Local practitioners, regional representatives and members of the Commission themselves, there's a real desire to work together to build impactful programs that actually serve the people who need it most in the regions. So then Ms. Sukova spoke after Mr. Yevsek, and Ms. Sukova said that the European Commission recognises the valuable contribution from social innovation in generating positive social change to achieve a more sustainable, social and inclusive Europe. Ms. Sukova, I think the main point she made is that as well as funding, that Europe, it's more than just giving out funding, and the most challenging thing for social innovation is to sustain what has been tested after the funding available ends. So there was a little discussion about that through the Slido questions at the end. Then I spoke after Ms. Sukova. So I run a community organisation called Robert Emmet Community Development Project. We run several very small programs, and I spoke about two of them, which are In Our Shoes Walking Tours and B8. They're two social enterprises. So I spoke about the opportunities that those social enterprise models create for individuals from a community that would be categorised as deprived. While there would be employment opportunities, Robert Emmet is based in Dublin in Ireland. While there may be employment opportunities, they wouldn't really be accessible generally. So we kind of innovate and provide more accessible opportunities. And the main impact of both In Our Shoes and B8 probably isn't what we thought it would be at the start, which was to provide those opportunities around employment and education, but it's probably giving that platform to the participants. My colleague Anthony is here in the audience today. It's giving that platform to develop a narrative around the area directly, rather than the area just being, I guess, viewed by its level of deprivation or the newspapers reporting on the area, and how we can leverage that. We were lucky enough to have Commissioner Ferrer on tour last September, and we've had the Irish Taoiseach, the Prime Minister, and people like this on tour, and it's having that ability to platform the area and to humanise the people. So then when we're talking about larger strategic development of the area, that it's on decision makers' agenda. Then after myself, Arkadia Szborowicz, who's the Vice President of Science for Environment Foundation Poland, spoke about their Good Support programme. It's an EU-funded project using digital technologies like software applications for mobile devices to deliver smart and inclusive care services in Poland's West Pomerania province. And in 2022, the foundation supported over 50 municipalities, registering over 1.4 million hours of neighbourhood assistance in the system. And Mr. Borowicz spoke about the inclusion of, I guess, the service user, so the inclusion of old people in the design of the programme, and that's something that we spoke about. Across all the speakers spoke about the need to include the community or the service user in the design of the programme to ensure it's appropriate and effective.
Thank you, Austin. And I think one of the things from that session takeaway was flexibility and evolution of the projects over time. So thank you for that summing up. We are going to ask everyone to sum up again in one word. On Slido, we're going back to our smartphones or to our devices and tablets for those of you joining remotely. And we're asking you for one word to sum up the sessions that you think have the lessons that have been learned from the sessions on retaining talent for regional growth. We know there have been lots of sessions on that throughout the week, but talent and skills have been very key this year because it is the European Year of Skills. So obviously, that was not a plant. I did not know skills was going to come up first, but obviously skills, youth, dream, innovation, lifelong learning. Again, New European Bauhaus. I think someone here is really pushing New European Bauhaus. Brain gain as opposed to brain drain. I like that saying. Salary, obviously, is one thing. Innovation, another one. Empowerment, jobs, building talent, perception change, lifestyle, human-centric. I think, again, something that we see coming up in a lot of different areas and a lot of different sectors about the need to keep people at the center of development and in economic innovation, but also keeping people as part of it as well. Right, we've had more than 60 people now voted on that. We're going to see what word then sums up our other thematic session. So that is the sessions this week that have been taking place on promoting social innovation and what we can learn from those various sessions. What are the lessons? What are the key words that we need to look ahead at? Good governance and youth. New European Bauhaus, people-centric youth involvement, co-creation, social justice, seed funding, social enterprise, inspiring. A lot there, I think, Monica, don't you agree, around the social sector. Aggregation, belonging, co-design, all of that, bringing people again together. Cooperation as well, cohesion, co-financing as well, all there. But youth standing out, I think, is the big word there from the promoting social innovation. Right, thank you all very much for voting. You can keep voting. We'll leave it open, but you can look at it online because we're going to go to our discussion. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us. President, would you have had a word that you would like to take away from the various sessions you've seen on these themes? What's your feeling on what we've been seeing this week?
Well, first of all, let me thank and praise the involvement and the commitment of everybody that made possible this European Week of Regions and Cities. I think it's amazing. By all means. I think it's amazing the force and the energy that comes out of this week, not only with the conclusions that we've been being presented, but also with the mobilization of people to debate, to discuss, to help to build something, if you may say, something new. Now, about the word, cohesion. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know if I am already obsessed with cohesion. But the fact is that everything comes to this. About the retaining talent for regional growth. Of course, there is a need, there is an urgency of considering this in the way where it can best serve needs that throughout communities across Europe we are feeling. In a more direct, in a more short term, but also in a more long term objectives or situations. The idea of having people adapt in their qualifications to a new economic environment, to new economic opportunities, of course it's appealing. It's appealing for everyone that is in this situation. But let me stress another point. There is also the urgent need to address this, because some of the biggest challenge we are facing can only work if we prepare people not only to face them, but to adapt and to live in this new environment. I'll give you two concrete examples. Green transition, digital transition. If you don't prepare people not only to adapt to this situation, but to profit, you have this risk of having very interesting, appealing policies being implemented that can have an effect of creating new disparities. That is why retaining talent in communities, preparing those communities to adapt to that situation is a cohesion objective that is at stake here. And not only that, because if you think a little bit, it comes as a threat. You solve the immediate issue, okay, of the green transition, the digital transition, but you can also, if you do that, if you go this way, to reskill, to prepare people to these new situations, you not only solve the issue about the economic, social cohesion, territorial cohesion, but also you also address one of the major challenges that Europe is facing, that is the desertification of rural communities. According to the COR, the Committee of the Regions, report on the situation of regions and cities, the data we have shows that by 2033, 30 million Europeans will leave rural areas.
10 years.
That's a catastrophe. It's catastrophic. So when you create the measures, the policies to prepare those communities to better live in this ever-changing economic environment, you are not only solving that immediate problem, you are creating the pillars, the basis for fighting also this demographic challenge. Because it's through this, and the same thing is to say, it's through cohesion policy that this issue can be solved, because no one decides to stay in a rural area just because politicians at national, regional, or European levels say, we must fight this, you have to stay there. No. They look for public services, where to raise their children. They look for public services about education, senior care. And this is about cohesion policy. They look for economic opportunities to have a job. That's why they will decide to stay in a rural area. If they have social services that can provide to them and to their family, and also economic opportunities, but also if they have accessibilities. And mainly right now, digital accessibilities. So it all comes to cohesion and to cohesion policy. And this is why, in my case, but not only in my case, we've been preaching cohesion policy and the importance, because it is one of the fundamental policies for the future, not only of our communities, but for the future of Europe as it's intended to be. A space of development, progress, social justice, a place where people want to live. So that's the word that comes to my mind, cohesion. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the President has reminded us there of the big picture. And we've put together these two themes, Minister, retaining talent and promoting social innovation, because without the talent, we don't really get the social innovation that we want. We need the talent to deliver it. And one of the words the President used a lot that I thought was interesting was adaptability. So where do you see these themes fitting in aiming to achieve this big picture that has been set out?
Please ask me which is my word is.
What is your word, Minister?
Exchange good practice. This is my word. And thank you for the invitation, Ms. Commissioner. It's great proud to be here with you. But I'm not first time in the week of the regions and cities. And I'm very happy that after 3 years we are together. I'm here from Thursday, and I met a lot of my friends and my colleagues, ministers and mayors, because I was a 7-year member of the Committee of the Region, like mayor in one small city, municipality in Slovenia. And because of that, I said that word, exchange good practice. In Committee of the Region, but I'm not talking about that because the President is here. Committee of the Region is not only a very important institution inside EU. It's a very important institution because of that, because they're coming, I think, 370 mayors and presidents of the regions, and anytime when I was there and now also, exchange good practice. I many times said or asked, look, I have a problem. What is your answer or decision about my problem? And you know, during external meetings, you can go in different local communities, different regions, and every region is sui generis. Every region is living lab for social innovation. And I learned a lot of that in committee, like member in committee of the region. Of course, we need strategies, we need analysis, and definitely EU pillar of social right is platform for social innovation, social program, for working with young talent, for working with elder people, people with mental health problem, etc., etc. And a lot of local level mayors and regional level mayors have very good actions and good programs about that. I spoke yesterday about some practice in Slovenia with young people. We established talent center. We are establishing now talent center, actually, because a lot young people didn't know how big talents they have. And during our working in program in talent center, we acknowledge that we need also talent center for old people, not for only for young people, for people who lost their jobs. And also they have talents. And we will try to help found that talents, also for old people. I spoke yesterday also, and maybe it's out of the questions, but it is interesting. We also need social innovation in work with Roma people. We have sometimes wrong perception that the Roma people is generally criminals, they don't want to work, they are only on social money, etc., etc. You will never believe, but I was a director of police directorate in one town with big Roma settlement. And one day, in this settlement, we have intervention because some criminal effects, and of course we won, police won, of course, but after that intervention, we have a lot of problem with communication with Roma population in all regions. We have a everyday conflict and problems month and months. And then we thinking what we can do. And I decide that we will play football game with Roma football team and police football team. Honestly, I have a lot of problem to find players inside the police officer, but okay. And then mayor said, okay, let's do that. I will pay barbecue, I will pay drink for everybody there. And let's do it. Roma team is won, 4-3. Okay, but we are won together. Because after that game, our communication was better than better. And Ms. Commissioner was in this Roma settlement, and you know what was leader of this settlement said? Hello, Ms. Commissioner, we are paying taxes for this country. What's he mean? we are also citizens of this country and this city. We are working and we are paying taxes. And you will never believe, because in this settlement, they have a kindergarten in which bring no Roma people, their children, in this kindergarten. And I think that social innovation are all very important inside minorities, inside identities. We cannot we cannot forget that. Okay, in the end of my first speech here, I have to say something, a social innovation after hardships, after floods in Slovenia. We have, as you know, big floods in August this year. After 3 months, now we are renovated environment, we are building new streets, we are building new bridges and everything. But what is feeling now? This is not enough to build streets, infrastructure, etc. People need social innovation to work with them. They need contact. They need somebody who will be with them in this winter days, because coming rain, depressive days, and we do that very hardly to bring them our hearts and our hands, not only money. And they have to trust in solidarity, in Europe solidarity and state solidarity, because they need that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Now, I'm told we're under pressure for time, so I'm just going to ask Virginia, for one word for you that you would have put in the word cloud, what would be your word?
It would be cohesion.
Okay. Austin, what would be your word?
Collaboration.
Okay. Minister, you already gave us best practice.
Exchange good practices.
And President, it was cohesion, wasn't it? Yes. Okay, a big round of applause. It still is. Okay, thank you very much indeed to all our speakers.
Thank you.
And we're going to have a look once again at the work of our graphic artist, who has been summing up what's been said on stage and drawing some icons and some little memory grabs for us so that we don't forget what was said. And also, I'm sure we'll be sharing these on social media, so if you want reminding about what was said, you can go and have a look at that as well. Monica, introduce our third and final block for today.
Thank you. The final block is even more territorial than the previous two. We are going to talk about small and mid-sized urban centers driving growth and also breaking barriers across borders, so cross-border cooperation. So can I just ask, how many of you are coming from small or mid-sized towns? Can you raise your hand? Can you raise? No, Paris is not, no, don't cheat. No? Yeah, okay. A lot of you. Would you all agree that these are beautiful places? They are rich of cultural heritage. They're green and they are human sized. They are really about the European way of living. We always talk about that. And at the same time, they face challenges. They see these mega trends. They see globalization, delocalization, people, resources, companies moving to these big urban centers. And this creates, of course, problems for these urban centers because it brings congestion, pollution, increased housing prices, but it also creates problems for your cities because you see talents going away, you see investment going away, and a risk to falling into an underdevelopment trap. So cohesion policy, of course, is and is going to continue to help invest in your regions to make sure that we build on your special advantages and to invert that trend. Cohesion policy is, of course, not only about developing regions, but also about cooperation. And this brings me to another topic, cross-border cooperation. About a third of Europe's population lives in such regions, so we are talking about borders both within the Union and with neighboring countries. And these are some of the most European regions. They are like incubators for European integration. One interesting fact we heard during the session, that while we have seen voting going down in many parts of Europe in European elections, in cross-border regions, more and more people go and vote in European elections. I think that speaks for itself, so let's have a look.
Cohesion policy is the glue that keeps Europe together.
There is a huge difference between citizens living in the capitals and those living in the periphery, particularly in border areas.
We need European solutions and tailor-made support to people in need, especially the most vulnerable.
La distanza che poi separa i cittadini dalle istituzioni. Sarete esattamente voi, amministratori, a poter apportare un aiuto concreto.
You cannot think the society of the future without considering the villages.
As small and medium-sized cities, we have to be bold in our strategies and bold in our vision. You need strong leadership for this.
Many different actors need to work together. We need to get out of silos.
If we have more cooperation, we will find more obstacles. We need to keep on solving border obstacles. We should have a cross-border perspective on any policy. With Ukraine, the same. The cross-border cooperation could be an excellent instrument to prepare the accession.
E il supporto dell'Interreg può fare veramente miracoli in terre che sono state devastate e dalla guerra e dalla politica.
We need collaboration. We need different advisor, example, supervision. It is very, very important for Ukrainian city. We must build our victory together.
Nous avons encore beaucoup de travail devant nous pour que les conditions de vie soient les mêmes à l'est et à l'ouest, au nord et au sud.
You have got to tell us how we can adapt better to fulfill your needs. From your regions, from your cities, we are in a listening mode.
Well, we're going to talk about all that now, so I'm going to invite our speakers for the final session on stage. Please welcome the Chair of the European Parliament's Regi Committee, Jonas Omarjee. Joining us as well, Šime Erlić, the Croatian Minister at the Ministry of Regional Development and the EU Fund. Ricardo Gonçalves from the Fundão project is the rapporteur from Team 3. And the Mayor of Lviv in Ukraine, the rapporteur from Theme 4. Please welcome Andriy Sadovy. So once again, I'm reminded we have to keep it brief, but we do want to hear the summaries of those sessions. Ricardo, tell us a little bit about the challenges and the takeaways from your session. Keep going.
Hello. Hello? Okay, now it's working perfect. Okay, good afternoon. It is a big pleasure to participate and an honor to participate in this session, so I would like to start by thanking for this incredible opportunity. I came from a small city in Portugal called Fundão, and this is the second time that we are on this stage. We were here 5 years ago to receive the Regio Stars Award from the Commission. So in the same room, we are having two unique experiences and unexpected experience for such a small city. So I need to share with you that I'm feeling very proud of my city. But I will get back to Fundão later on, because my mission here is to share some takeaways from the thematic session we had Tuesday on small and mid-sized urban centers driving growth. We all recognize a critical role for small and medium-sized cities to ensure a balanced territorial development. But when we look to the reality, we see that small urban areas have been strongly affected by macro trends like globalization and agglomeration economies, leading many to fall behind. However, many small and medium-sized cities and towns have focused on their advantages and designed new strategies and implemented new and innovative public policies trying to invert these trends through digitalization, green investments, and promoting inclusive living environments. So it was both challenging and inspiring to participate in this thematic session with the cities of Cluj, Murcia, and Turku, all framed by the expertise and knowledge of the OECD and very well moderated by Krista Sikel. The panel started with an intervention from Mr. Emil Boc, Mayor of Cluj-Napoca and former Prime Minister of Romania. Cluj-Napoca is, with 400,000 inhabitants, is the second largest city in Romania and one of the most important academic and cultural centers in the country, and is one of the 100 cities participating in the city's mission to become climate neutral by 2030. In his introductory remarks, the mayor of Cluj clearly stated that small and medium-sized cities can offer quality of life, but he also identified some critical challenges like economic disparities, digital divide, and brain drain. So, how to find best quality in our cities and towns? Mr. Emil Boc said, and now I'm quoting, "We have to create a strong ecosystem, not ecosystem. Brain drain should be turned into brain circulation. Cities have a duty to bring all stakeholders together and keep our citizens on board. Bring people together to dream about their future city. Communicate with the people, not for the people, and show the results of European projects." After this introduction, Mr. David Burgalassi, economist and expert on urban systems at OECD, added several important topics to the discussion. Small and medium-sized cities are the backbone of balanced regional and national urban systems. So the benefits from leveraging their potential go beyond the local impacts. For instance, in delivering urban-rural linkages. Despite their potential, they often face significant challenges, which are magnified by megatrends. For instance, the demographic shifts displayed by aging and depopulation are more evident in small and medium-sized cities. The challenges of small cities can turn into opportunities, and to unlock their potential, they need to strengthen their intermediary functions, acting as territorial hubs. Otherwise, the risk is that territorial disparities will amplify. Quality of life was also mentioned by Mr. Burgalassi in another very interesting perspective, stating that understanding the small cities requires innovative metrics beyond growth, based on well-being and place belonging. Also participating in the panel, Murcia is a university city of around 400,000 inhabitants. This medium urban center has been a leading member of the Spanish urban agenda and active in the urban agenda for the EU. Murcia aims to reinforce the vibrancy of the rural territories surrounding the city, to integrate culture in the city's development strategy, and to foster the involvement of citizens and promote circular economy. Mr. Mercedes Martinez, Director of Programs for Region of Murcia, shared with the audience that some of the key factors of successful strategic urban development are political support and leadership, multidisciplinary teams, multi-level governance, and aligning all plans with urban strategy. Multi-funding is crucial to ensure implementation and thereby credibility. As she stated, cities have to earn credibility by implementing, not only planning. Next came the city of Turku. Okay, so I'll try to summarize very briefly.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a summary.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, so in Turku, they share with the audience the incredible project of the Turku Urban Biodiversity Park, which was recently recognized as an urban innovative action from the European Union, and is a good example of this. The city that is working together with knowledge institutions, associations, regional level, private sector, and civil society to promote innovative projects Last but not least, Fundão, just to share with you that, as I said, we are a small city of less than 30,000 inhabitants, having only 15,000 living in the city center, and depopulation was at the top of our problem. So we started to design a new and open and collaborative strategy 10 years ago, and fortunately it was possible to create a business and innovation friendly that allow us to revert the trend of depopulation. And now Fundão is the home of about 1,000 software developers in a city with 15,000 inhabitants. And it was great to see our city recognized as one of the 9 European capitals of inclusion and diversity this year, because currently we have inhabitants from more than 70 different nationalities living in our city. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry
as well.
for taking too much time.
Thank you. Andrew, we had a session on breaking down barriers to cross-border cooperation, and your focus is obviously from what the cross-border cooperation and assistance can give to Ukraine. So if you give us a brief summary of what you felt.
First of all, thank you for invitation. It is great forum, a lot of meetings, good contact, and all time I think about situation in Ukraine. 30,000 my citizens today in front line. My deputy in front line, my member of city council in front line, but we have similar situation with all Ukrainian cities. But all time we must think about future. And my visit to Brussels, it is good chance found new contact, new ideas. Before my panel, I had a short conversation with Euro Commissar Elisa Ferrero, and I thanked for huge support. 4 months ago, we had in view architecture forum, 600 participants. All chief architecture, small, middle cities in Ukraine. Famous architects from different countries, Shigeroban, Benish, and 3 days we talked about future, about new technology, about new building, and we need new ideas, we need new collaboration between Ukrainian cities and European cities. I talked about this topic today, yesterday. It is very, very important part, but you know, Lviv, huge humanitarian hub today. And we have in Lviv office city Mariupol, we have in Lviv office city Skadovsk, this city today in occupation. But I must think about my citizens and internally displaced people, about wounded. Shigeroban, during architecture forum, present innovation architecture project, building in Lviv, new architecture building, 25,000 square meters, surgery block, huge surgery block. During war, we must protect our country and we must think about future. Welcome to Ukraine, Lviv maximum safe. And for me, Lviv must have a new position. Every week we host in Lviv Ukrainian cities for different training. Training about architecture, training about medical, training about ecology, different projects. And we need good speaker from Euro Commission. We have support from Sweden Association Solar. Maybe you already support us. Only collaboration Today we have huge collaboration between Ukrainian government and European governments. And we need more collaboration between Ukrainian cities and cities from Euro Commission. My message, very simple, but we must expand capacity building Ukrainian cities. Maybe in 2, 3, 4 years, Ukraine will next member European Union. But we must prepare the situation and we must make huge homework. Only together with you. Thank you for support. Thank you.
Well, Chair, we're going to follow the same theme. I'm going to ask for your reaction to what our rapporteurs have said about their sessions and give us your perspective from inside the Parliament about these questions we're trying to look at in how to enhance and develop small and mid-sized urban centres to make them wonderful places to live, and also about breaking those barriers to cross-border cooperation.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. This is the closing session, and I really want to say that it has been a great pleasure for me as an MP and other MEPs to take part in this week, because this European week has been full of ideas, of debates, and for us as MEPs, this will help us in the next few weeks in our work. And this European Week of Regions and Cities really does make us stronger. It makes us better able to defend cohesion. And we have very important meetings coming up in the next few weeks and months. We would also like to thank the European Commission and the Commissioner Elisa Ferreira, as well as the Committee of the Regions that have organized this event wonderfully. Now we are talking about something that is very complex. This is something that really is at the heart of our policy. So when we talk about small and medium-sized towns, we are talking about the city of Emil Boc, Cluj in Romania, and we were also talking about very small towns in rural areas. We are also talking about towns that might be near large urban centres, and then others that are right on the outer edges. And then we have others that are, for example, as far as the Azores or even in Réunion. So they are really far away. So we can see how diverse the situation is. And the definition of the cohesion policy and the urban policy must look at the details of this kind of diversity. However, because of this, we cannot generalize. Whether a town is small or medium-sized is, in fact, currently a town that faces many difficulties. And what we need to do is to revert the trend. And this means that we need to ensure that the cohesion policy has an impact. This is ensuring that there is territorial equality, which brings all areas together so that medium-sized and small-sized towns are attractive. We don't only need investment and funding, we need an entire ecosystem for this to happen. We need investment in education, public services. We need to ensure that there are possibilities for young people to stay where they are. We want to ensure that there are opportunities for businesses to make profits. But what we are seeing currently is the opposite. We are seeing movements in the opposite direction that are quite concerning. We know that because of COVID, things did change. We saw that large urban centers were emptying slightly because there was this idea that smaller towns and medium-sized towns could offer a better quality of life. And I do think that we need to think about this. This is part of our policy. We need to ensure that we reduce territorial disparities, and we do this through a series of instruments. Let me take this opportunity to say the following. Small and medium-sized towns face problems that are linked to investing in the cohesion policy for small and medium-sized businesses. So by supporting SMEs, we are also supporting small and medium-sized towns, because those are the places where small businesses most need our support. And that is why the Commissioner reminded us this morning that the crux of the matter is supporting SMEs. And this is an important matter to us as well. And what about cross-border cooperation? It is this policy that can best be offered by the European Union. So cross-border cooperation was a question that you put to one of the panelists. If you ask me, I would say that cross-border cooperation means guaranteeing peace. It is ensuring the sustainability of peace. We have seen examples through other programs, for example, the peace program itself. And it is where we must strengthen cooperation across borders. We also need to do this with Ukraine, of course. The Committee of the Regions, the European Commission and the European Parliament are all doing their utmost to strengthen cooperation between towns and regions in the European Union, as well as those in Ukraine. Our committee has set up contact with the Ukrainian Parliament so that we can talk about this, because we need to prepare the country to join the European Union. And the best way to do this is to exchange knowledge, best practices between the regions in the European Union and the regions in Ukraine, so that we can establish a certain number of standards that will align with the rules that will need to be adhered to on this path to accession. And we will soon be going into the details of these matters with our committee. So these are the matters that are at the center of the work that we do in the European Parliament. Thank you.
So, Minister, let's build on, as the Chair said, many of our small and mid-sized towns need supporting in much the same way as we support SMEs, and obviously we also need to strengthen cross-border collaboration. It's not all about just putting money at the problem, it's also about building the structures around it. Give us your take on how these two themes perhaps work together, or what we should be looking at in looking to the future with these themes.
Thank you. Well, it's really a great pleasure to be here today with you, and I think I'm a final speaker on a final event. So I know you're a little bit all tired, but I'll try to be really brief in trying to summarize what I really think about it's important to say about the small and medium cities. I mean, I want just to say a few facts. There's 30% of the people living in small and medium-sized cities. And when we look only at the urban population, people who are living in the cities, all cities, small and big ones, 50% of them are living in the small and medium-sized cities. So it's a huge. And the question is, why are we not talking more about the policies, framework, and strategies, and how to use better these cities in delivering changes in their regions regarding green and digital transition, but also regarding the demographic challenges? My personal opinion is that they can be as same important factor as a region itself or as a capital city by themselves. So these cities must take role in the growth for their regions, must take responsibility for the providing jobs and services, and they can really, as we have heard today many times, create more favorable conditions and more and good quality of life in their cities and their environment. This is why focusing our growth strategies, focusing the Commission growth strategy, but also governments and member states on small and medium-sized cities is particularly important, because you are ensuring more fair distribution of support and growth opportunities across the region. You are making better urban-rural linkages if you are investing in small and medium-sized cities, and it means more balanced growth. And obviously, it's more sustainable to put investments to wider areas of the regions and the states than concentrating it in only big urban hubs. So, but the one other important things that I was heard also today is, and it's also for the cities, there is no one city that is the same. No one in the world, there is no one city that is the same to each other. And how you tackle strategies for such a diversified thing. So the cities are different in their culture, the cities are different in their history, in their environment, in how they are presenting, how they are acting daily. So this is why we love them. This is why they are beautiful. This is why we like to visit them. And they all have specific development needs, and there is no one unique strategy that you can use in boosting their growth. You have to come down. You have to be more place-based. You have to put your national and subnational and over the national policies and put it down more on a local and regional level to tackle these issues. We all know that. But we also must appreciate the possibility that the Commission gave us by the new regulation and the ITIs. I know that you are familiar with the ITIs, Integral Territorial Investments, but I have to mention it because this was something that 7 or 8 years ago was non-existent. Now we are working on it all across Europe, and the cities, I can say for my country, they are very happy because they have ITIs. And it's a huge deal for them. When I'm talking to them, they're seeing it as an opportunity of a lifetime to implement ITIs in their cities, because they're helping them to become more resilient, more green, more digital, but they're helping them also to implement their strategies as they want. They don't have to finding money for their investments through the call for proposals and competing with each other, but they got the investments, they got the allocation for themselves as a decentralized financial instrument to put these investments into practice. And we put a lot of effort in this also in Croatia. First of all, we had 4 cities in line. Croatia is a small country, 4 million people, but only macro regions, the biggest one. Then we made it expanded towards 7, and now in new financial perspective, we made it 22. 14 of 22 are the mid-sized cities, because we believe in mid-sized cities, and we believe that them as a county settlements could lead and be a drivers of a change in their counties and then in their regions. They're nucleus of growth of economy, in economic way, social way, demographic way, any other way. So we have to put more attention to them. I was working also, now I'm working in the ministry obviously, but before that I was working also in the local government, and I know how much that meant to them. When we first time was introduced by the ITI and we got the opportunity to have the ITI, we were so happy and so excited. Obviously, after a while when the implementation started, then started a headache. But we also had problems of obviously implementing. But we are happy because we got the opportunity of a lifetime to change something within the city, to have integral type of investments, to plan these investments simultaneously, not one by one, but simultaneously. It gets synergies. And I think it's a great effort by the Commission, but also by the Member States and all the ones who are using the ITIs, and it should be prolongated even furthermore and develop even more in future to come and future of the cohesion. Furthermore, and I will start ending by this, is a demographic that I want to challenge. We all know, and you all said, it's good to live in small and medium-sized cities. They have a higher quality of life environment for the families and raising children, and peaceful and more harmonious environment. And they could be also seen, if we are thinking place-based, not just sectorial, they could also be seen as places that could make a change in demographic stance. But we have to design policies, demographic policies, for them. Because people like, and families like to live in these areas, more than they do like to live in big urban centers with lots of work to do and 24/7 working hour. So we have to rethink our way on how can these cities help Europe tackle demographic challenges also. And finally, the key point, small and medium-sized cities should be considered as a key player in delivering these crucial challenges, green and digital transition, demographic challenges, and we should give even more support to the European Commission, all of us, for the further development of the territorial investment tools to even expand these policies that has been shown as a good one so far. And just a final thought for the cross-border cooperation. Not even one of the greatest challenges of our time, in Europe I mean, but also globally. I mean, security, migration, not environment. Not even one of them could be addressed and tackled within the borders of one country. So it's a fact. So we have to collaborate and we have to cooperate. And this is why these kind of discussions and collaboration on a European scale give us the power to tackle more efficient these huge challenges that we are facing globally today. With no more need to expand more, thank you for everything. Yeah.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, you saw we didn't manage to do a Slido one word at the beginning of this session, so I will give you each one word. Andrew, I'm going to suggest yours might be unbroken, because I see it there on your chest, if you want to take that word for cross-border collaboration. Yep. Okay.
I would say lifestyle as the biggest competitive advantage of small areas.
Minister?
The collaboration.
Andrew?
Survive, resilience, and believe in victory.
And finally, Chair, one phrase, one word.
Cohésion. Vive la cohésion.
Cohesion, long live cohesion.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So, thank you very much. We have got our graphic once again for our session. So, if we could have a look at that. And I'm going to ask these gentlemen to please leave because we're going to have our hosts back up on the stage. So Chair will remain with us. Commissioner, if you could join us again on stage, and President from the European Committee of the Regions.
Can I talk in the meantime?
Yes.
So we have arrived at the very end of the 21st edition of the European Week of Regions and Cities, and what a week. We had 300 sessions, 500 partners, and more than 5,000 participants. So while VIPs take a seat, I just want to thank you wholeheartedly for sharing your stories, for sharing your transformational cohesion projects, and to continue to show us how they can transform for the better the life of your citizens, communities, and territories. But let us now really look into the future. So please, take a seat. So before I give you the last word for closing remarks, I want you to play a little game with me and imagine a huge crystal ball in front of you. You're going to look into the future of cohesion policy. And of course, the difference between fortune tellers and you are that fortune tellers, they can just predict. You can actually shape the future. So how do you see this future? How do you see the future of cohesion policy? What should we change and what we should absolutely preserve? And I'm going to start with Mr. Omarjee, Chair of the Regi Committee.
En mot de conclusion.
So by way of conclusion, and as I often say, structural funds have really allowed us to build Europe, and we can see this. Right now we are in a process of rebuilding, of refounding. And we all share this conviction, and that is that the cohesion policy and structural funds will considerably help us to rebuild the European Union. So we have a responsibility. This is an historic responsibility because it is up to us to define the content of what we want. And in this content, what we see is equality. Equality is always a feature at the beginning and at the end. This principle of equality is on which European civilizations have been based, and it is at the heart of our cohesion policy. It is what gives us more determination and strength, and that is why I am fully convinced by our future. Because if the cohesion policy were to be weakened, it would mean that the entire European project, the idea of Europe, the building of Europe would be weakened as well. And I do not believe in the death of Europe. I do not believe in the death of the European Union. I believe quite the opposite. I think there is a strong signal that the European Union is showing us what will happen in the future in the world. And I do not want to make any predictions, but I am very confident in the future of the cohesion policy based on what I have just said. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think so. President Cordero, how do you see that crystal ball?
I don't see any crystal ball. Just kidding. Well, I see a future where we have to be aware that we face challenges. So it won't be a sunny day with birds singing and flowers blooming and cohesion policy descending from the skies in all its glory. No, we have challenges. But the future I see is of a cohesion policy that more and more people, officials, representatives, people in charge recognize that it is needed. Because we still need economic, social, and territorial cohesion. I see in that crystal ball new challenges arising that make cohesion policy as the key instrument to overcome them. I see in that crystal ball a cohesion policy that is improved, that is more simple, that a cohesion policy that is prepared to address unforeseen events, never forgetting its nature of a long-term investment policy. I see a cohesion policy that has the participation not only about implementing, but designing from cities, from regions, that member states, that European institutions feel that having them on board since the early stages, it's a necessity. And finally, let me say that in that crystal ball, I see in March next year, the European Summit of Regions and Cities that will take place in Mons, right here next Brussels, and it will be a good opportunity to once again stress and keep pushing for cohesion policy. Thank you.
And finally, Commissioner, the future is yours.
Yes. I hope so. Well, but let me try also to sum up, and I will build on what has been said. First of all, I think that in fact we look ahead, and I share this conviction that life is not free of dangers. We see it every day. We see the most unexpected things happening. We saw it, some things are expected, like climate change. Nevertheless, where it occurs, how it occurs, the frequency, everything is unexpected. Then we have the man-made short-term agenda, which is not always wise. And we see, the invasion of Ukraine. We see all the problems that are arising on our borders. So, and I also think that cohesion policy is not perfect. But having said this, everything that we have been doing during this week, all this engagement, all these examples, they show that we have in our hands the ingredients to make it happen. And make it happen is giving a chance, opportunity to everybody. It's for the people. And we have got to think of the people in all the dimensions of what we call people. So, of course, having said this, having a special concern for the elderly, having a special concern for the active population, those that have to face every day the costs of transport, the costs of a difficult job. I have a special attention to the young generation, because this world that for people of my age was in our youth relatively stable, now all this instability that we see around us, it affects much more the young people than us, because they have not lived their life yet. And nevertheless, they are challenged with all sorts of issues, of problems. And we see, and I'm very worried with 2 or 3 aspects in the European Union. One of them is, in fact, this demographic decline of Europe, which shows that young people don't feel confident enough to have a family if they so wish. So we have got to address how to give them this opportunity. And everything that we have been discussed about the quality of life in the different urban areas relates to this. Then you see 8 million young people that are neither in work nor in education. So, and at the same time, you interview the companies and everybody claims that they don't have workforce. So what is happening there? These people, they cannot be lost. They are a huge energy that we can use. And then we see that people in search for a life, that they really often abandon the places where they were born, the places where they would like to live, because they have to search for a job and for a life somewhere else, and sometimes they end up emigrating. So my wish for the future is that, in fact, we do this rebalancing, that we do this quality of life for people of all generations, but in fact that we pay a specific attention to quality of life, to the local aspects, to how we implement the policies, moving away from just discussing big numbers of money and going into a very light approach to how to do it, because nothing is simple. That's why we cared so much about New European Bauhaus and now about sharing these experiences across, because there is no recipe, and if there is a recipe, it's not in Brussels. We try to create the guidelines. We are all together. We are in a very convergent kind of approach, but we need, in practice, to have on the ground, at the level of member states, at the level of the regions, at the level of municipalities, we have got to have a convergent approach so that we deliver it. So my last words, because I'm talking about people, is to thank people. We were here, you all came from all over the world, you came from all over the regions across Europe. Thank you very much for being available, for exchanging your points of view, for being humble, for being open, and for establishing this kind of learn by sharing and teach by understanding the other people's problem. This is Europe in action. And last, if you allow me, let me thank all the people that made this happen. In particular, of course, all your collaborators, all the collaborators from the European Parliament, from the cabinet of Mr. Omarjee, from the European Committee of the Regions, the President and all the team. And let me have a special word for my dear colleagues in DG Regio, in DG Reform, and all this wonderful team that prepared everything for us. So thank you very much to all of you, and I would ask you for a round of applause to all the collaborators that helped us to make this wonderful week happen. Thank you very much.
And I think that's such a high to end on. Let's just have a look at a video of all the highlights of the week. And thank you again to everyone.
Many people across Europe have benefited from cohesion policy, often without realizing it. We must get the word out, but we can't do it from Brussels alone. We must rely on the engagement of member states, regions, cities, and of course you, all of you.
Thank you.